right, hey, welcome everybody. Robin Robbins here, founder of TMT and MSP Success Magazine. Super excited today. I've got the amazing Mr. Fred Voccola with us. Super excited to talk to him today. And if you, obviously you guys know who Fred is, doesn't really need an introduction. But today we're going to be talking about a lot of things going on at Kaseya, some trends we're seeing. I think we've got some great information to share with you today. But also just, I know a lot of people are, wondering, like, it's now 6 months after officially buying Datto and 9 months since you announced it. And people are kind of wondering, what's going on, what's changed and so forth. So thanks for being here today, Fred. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Robin, for having me. As always, love talking to your folks and doing your interviews. You're never one to mince words. So it's always fun.
Well, I think that what's interesting to me, people don't know this, but, you took over as the CEO of Kaseya in 2015, and I reached out to you back then when Kaseya had it was, a couple hundred employees, maybe. I think they were doing 85 million or something like that. And you took over, and I just reached out to you and invited you to a producers club meeting. And I remember you sitting in the lunch hall, just talking to people at tables and stuff like that. And, today, make sure I get this right. I mean, you started in 2015, 85 million. Today, you're creeping up on 2 billion, I think, if I understand that correct. Yeah. It's staggering. And 5,000 employees, just unbelievable. And I think that, when I get the opportunity to talk to you, when I know you're extremely busy, so I appreciate this. There's always, I think you just see so much of what's going on in the industry and trends, not only for MSPs, but the big super MSPs, the vendors and stuff like that. So, just wanted to kind of put that out there that I think, you're just one of the obviously most influential and important people on our channel. And, and I just listening to what you have to say always, I like being around people that I can learn stuff from. So I appreciate your time. So, okay. So I have Jeff Johnson in the background, by the way, and I think people can post questions or in the chat. So if you guys have thoughts or questions, go ahead and post that. But I want to start out just by saying, give everybody a little overview. I mean, it's been 9 months you announced this Datto app, which I think took everybody by surprise, took me by surprise. And then 6 months, it's now finalized. What's going on? What's happening? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's been a busy 9 months, but it's good. I think, excuse me, like with anything, with any change, people always get nervous. And I think this acquisition is no different. We bought IT Glue. It was no different. We bought Rapid Fire Tools. It was no different. People, in the absence of, anytime there's change, people get concerned. Yeah. And one of the things that we said, part of our strategy, or not part of, but our strategy behind why did we buy Datto was amazing products, an amazing MSP-centric culture. And we committed that we were going to support all products, going to lower prices. We're going to integrate everything into the platform, and we're going to substantially enhance the Datto partner program. And we've done it. It's been a lot of work over the last 9 months. I tell you that the teams have been great. We picked up a ton of great people when we acquired Datto. We picked up a lot of great customers as well. One of the coolest things in this industry, Robin, you told the story that when I joined, you're one of the first, you reached out to me early on. Well, so I don't know if people know the story. Robin was the first person from the industry.
Oh, really? I didn't know I was the first.
Yeah. The first one, you're like, hey, I'm Robin Robbins. I'm here to help. I'm like, I didn't know anything about this. You're like, I'm having this event in I think it was Nashville. And
it was in Nashville, yeah.
Come check it out. And I was like, okay. I think that literally I was on the job maybe 5 weeks or 3 weeks. And you said, yeah, a bunch of your customers will be here. You can talk to them. And when I took over Kaseya was struggling. It's saying it very nicely. We were really struggling. So the first 6 months, it was just going around the world and just listening to customers and how we screwed up and how messed up of a company we were and how we can get better. Yeah. And really accelerated that because I probably had maybe 100, literally 100 one-on-one conversations. Some were 30 seconds, some were 30 minutes of people just saying, hey, here's some feedback.
Mhm.
And the cool part about this industry is people, they give you a chance. It sounds cheesy, it sounds emotional, but it's true. And a lot of the MSPs that I spoke with at that Producers Club meeting, I think, by the way, the Shark Tank guy was there. One of the Shark Tank guys was there. I still remember that.
Robert. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think it
Robert, I met him. And he's like,
Yeah.
what do you do? I'm like, we sell software to MSPs. He's like, what kind of software? I'm like, I don't really know. I've only been here for like 2 weeks. No, it's kind of funny. But we were talking, and one of the things that I found great was a lot of the customers that talked, a lot of them were angry. You screwed us over, or you didn't do this well, your product stinks, or you don't care. And maybe 10 minutes into the conversation, like, okay, here are things that you can do better that would be good. Like, they were very constructive.
Mhm.
And that's very rare. It's super cool. So you were the first person who reached out with an olive branch to just help.
Mhm.
Don't forget that, Robin. It was awesome. And all of your people should know that's a very rare quality in a person. I'll always remember it and always be very grateful for it.
No, I
But
appreciate that.
so going to Datto, I saw the same thing. We had a lot of partners or customers that were, Datto MSPs. They were saying, look, I've been a Datto partner customer for 7 years. Here's some challenges with Datto. Here's things that you can do better. What do don't change this, adjust that. There's not a shortage of feedback, and not knucklehead feedback, like constructive feedback, which is great. So, here we are 9 months in now, or 7 months post-close, depending how you measure it. And we've integrated every single one of Datto's products into IT Complete. They're not all fully integrated, to be really clear, but everyone's at least level 1 integrated.
Mm-hmm.
We have about 150 more engineers now than we announced the deal.
150?
About 150 more engineers.
On the Datto side, or I guess or do you just kind of look at it as one pool, I guess, at this point?
So we look at it as one company.
Okay.
On the Datto products themselves, I believe the number, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but the majority of the additional incremental hiring has been there because we had, on the existing technologies that we owned before we bought Datto, we were R&D teams were pretty filled. We got a couple hundred more support people. We opened a big new support center in Orlando, Florida. We've about 300 more account managers than we had as a company in June. So the number of customers or partners, MSPs, that each one of our account managers is managing is less, both Kaseya Datto, than it was 6 months ago. And they'll continue to get less, which means more individual attention. As much, Robin, as I'd love to think that we don't make mistakes, we make a ton of mistakes. And the first line of defense to make sure that our MSPs, that the mistakes get fixed is their account manager. It's the first person to call, so they jump onto that. So that's good. We've lowered the prices of the Datto products that we bought pretty substantially, on average, like 15%. Some are a little less, some are a little more, depending on different things. So we've lived up to that. The partner program, so Datto had an absolutely amazing partner program. One of the things I tell the story, one of the first meetings after we signed the deal, you start to go in and you learn a little bit about the companies, and we were competitors, and I got a deep overview of their partner program. I was like, this is awesome. I turned to my guys, I'm like, why the hell haven't we been doing this? It was fantastic. So obviously that crew, we adopted that group. We've invested substantially in it. That rolls up under Gary Pica. And, we've enhanced it a lot. We've enhanced it with a lot of money. We've enhanced it with things like we have something called a remote IT and security management program. So we sponsor with a number of universities in the US as well as in Europe. We sponsor a remote IT and security management certificate. It's like a whole semester of work, right? And these young people that come out of either a trade school, like a technical trade school, or out of a 4-year university with like a computer science degree or an MIS degree or something, that makes you a little more IT-ish. It's a full semester. Kaseya teaches it. Kaseya builds the curriculum. They learn for a full semester how to do remote IT and security management. And they learn it on the IT Complete platform. So they're using Autotask, they're using Kaseya VSA, Datto RMM,
Mhm.
Rocket Cyber, our SOC, all IT Glue, all the parts of our platform.
Mhm.
They also take, classes on like IT bedside manner, so they understand that. So these
Yeah.
kids graduate. We'll graduate about 1,000 of them. And now, as a part of the new partner program or the enhanced partner program, we provide access to that labor pool.
That's great. Yeah,
We
so smart.
also a lot of enhancements. Gary and Dan Tomaszewski and a lot of the folks have done a great job at taking the many, many millions of dollars that we've wanted to do to enhance that program and making it real. So it's been fun. It's been a lot of work, as I'm sure you guys on the call can hear. My voice is still a little off, but it's been fun. I mean, it's great. We have a great customer base. Super blessed to have it, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
Well, anytime you have an integration, like MSPs out there, a lot of them have bought companies, and they know anytime you're integrating a company, it's a lot. And then when you look at the size of the two of you and remote locations and all the moving parts and different billing and all the things, it's got to be you guys must not sleep over there. I don't know how you do it, but I do want to say personally, thank you for putting Dan Tomaszewski in charge of in the partner program, because I don't know if you know this or not, but Dan was one of our Producers Club members for a long time. He ran the winning accountability group every quarter after quarter, year after year. And then he got recruited away. He actually went with ID Agent. Yeah. And that's how you ended up with him. But so he's back, because when you promoted him, he emailed me immediately and said, hey, call me. We were doing these cool things. So, I love that, because, obviously Dan and you don't know this, but I've been trying to recruit him forever. So it's kind of like now
he's off limits.
Well, now we can work together, but what's cool is now, we are working together on MDF. Kaseya is providing MDF for our programs, which is really amazing. And our members appreciate that. And, it's some really good things. I'm very excited to see that. And Gary and Dan both are, they ran MSP. They know how your partners think, and Dan has helped. I'm just speaking from my perspective, any issues that anybody had with anything Kaseya or now Datto, Dan his team has been super responsive in resolving things that, people are like, wow, finally it got it resolved. So that's really good. I appreciate
I think I mentioned this maybe on another interview we did a while ago, but anyone here, most of you know Dan's a rock star.
He is.
So 2 points to Dan. One of them is Dan is an example of how Kaseya buys companies. I mean, Dan came from the acquisition of ID Agent. Now Dan's a senior executive and he's running a big group. Gary Pica came from an acquisition. That's what we try to do. We don't try to break what made the companies that we had good. We try to enhance it. And same thing with Datto. We got a ton of people from Datto and different levels of senior management throughout the company. Second thing about Dan personally. So anybody talks to him, his nickname is Big Country.
Oh God.
You have to make sure that when we talk with Dan, you got to refer to him as Big Country.
I'm trying to be friends with him. I want the MDF to keep coming our way, so I'm not going to call him that. But we can personally. So I don't, I just call him, Chief MDF Officer or something like that. But anyway, okay. So another thing I want to ask you about, because this all kind of ties into a couple of things. Because I mean, I heard, because we talk to Dan now more regularly, but you guys had a monster quarter and really a monster year. Yeah. Is that through the acquisitions? Is that organic? Because the reason I'm asking is, I just wrote an article for the magazine about there's massive layoffs going on. I mean, you're looking at Nexiva, Lenovo, Microsoft, Enable, LionGuard, some of them. And I'm not trying to be down on those companies. I mean, even LionGuard said it was one of the hardest decisions he had to make to lay off a bunch of people. And so it wasn't like, oh, we're overstaffed, it was painful. Yeah. And it seems like you guys you got 5,000 employees, you're adding, you're just saying 150 engineers in 6 months or whatever the period. So, what's going on there? Is this a sign of bad times, or are you kind of tight belt too? But I mean, what's going on? Your thoughts?
Yeah. So a great, I guess, question, maybe a series of questions in there.
Yeah.
So I'll start by saying So we at Kaseya, we're super lucky. So obviously everyone on this call knows this, but we provide a platform for MSPs to deliver IT and security management for their customers. Now let's talk about MSPs customers, small to mid-sized businesses. That's MSP customers, 99% of them, right? And small to mid-sized businesses are digitally transforming. There's a lot of ways of defining that. What it means is software applications are the most critical aspects of those businesses. That's a crappy definition of it, but it's a definition. We saw the same thing happen in the enterprise in like the late 90s to maybe 2012, 15. These business applications, CRM, supply chain management, you pick it, they fundamentally change businesses. I mean, the efficiencies that you gain, the power you gain, it's astronomical. We've seen as those technologies have now come downstream, so the dental practice can have email marketing and CRM applications that only Citibank could have in 2002. Now, in order for those, so these dental practices and the other small to mid-sized businesses, they are now dependent upon these applications to have a successful business. And for those applications to be, available all the time and to be secure requires enterprise grade IT and security. And the difference between Citibank and, the Bank of the Two Rivers in, Red Bank, New Jersey, is Citibank has 50,000 people in IT, and the Bank of the Two Rivers with 3 branches in, Red Bank, New Jersey, kind of the area I grew up, they have an MSP, or they have one IT person that an MSP supports.
Right.
And it's very difficult. So that's the reality. But that digital transformation, the small bank, the dental office, the architecture firm, whatever they may be, they are spending a larger and larger portion of their revenue on technology. And because they're spending it on technology, they have to spend it on the IT and security infrastructure that runs it. Mm-hmm. So I believe our thesis, no one cares what I think is Fred Voccola, but Kaseya, our thesis is the macroeconomic climate's going to slow down. We're preparing for a pretty harsh slowdown. I don't know if it's going to be a moderate, a harsh, or somewhere in the middle, but our belief is prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Right.
That being said, we are lucky, both all of the MSPs on the call here or the webinar here, and Kaseya and vendors like us that support them, because of that macro trend of the continuing investment in IT and security, we will all suffer a little bit, but we'll suffer less than the aggregate economy because we're on the right side of the curve,
right?
Surfing the right way. So that's what we've seen, and that's what we're projecting. Our numbers are very strong. We added over $70 million of recurring revenue in the fourth quarter alone.
Wow, 70 million?
Yeah, 70 million. We did over 100 million of EBITDA, or profit, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. We're looking, so our growth rate for 2023, our organic growth rate, which is like not adding on the revenue from M&A, just organic growth, right, should be around 30%. We're going to make 3 or 4 acquisitions in the year. So obviously our overall growth rate will be higher, but organic growth will be in the 30% range. Our EBITDA margins will be in the mid 30s. We'll do well over 500-600 million of EBITDA, depending on how things come out. So we're doing really well.
So is that because there's more demand? So I'm just trying to there's only so many MSPs out there. So some of this has got to be, is that because the MSPs are getting greater demands on compliance and security? And so, each MSP is just selling more to each customer. Cause that's what I've seen over this last year. New customer acquisition for MSPs in our group has slowed down, but their revenues have grown. And so where they're getting their money is they're selling more security, compliance, PCI, for example, one of our members, Jeff and I were just talking about this. He is using Connect Booster and the secure payments. He's kind of testing that. He's going to his customer saying, I'm paying to have you get audited for PCI compliance and make sure you're secure and make sure you're getting the best rate. And he's literally getting thank you notes from customers.
Yeah.
And I think he added, I'd have to, just don't take that, but somewhere around $3,000 in just pure profit, just by doing this, and customers are happier because he's going to them, getting them PCI compliant. So like, is your growth part of it? Is it that your current MSPs are selling more and you're selling more licenses to stuff, or are you adding more MSPs, or is it both?
It's probably both. So let me maybe answer the question. I'll try to directly answer it. I'll answer it before directly answering it. Our strategy at Kaseya, right, is we have a platform called IT Complete. I'm not trying to put everybody to sleep with it, but what that is our goal is to have a platform that has software for every type of managed service that an MSP's customers wants to consume. Like you said, whether it's security or compliance or endpoint management or backup or whatever it may be.
So it's complete.
We also provide the kit for the MSP to run their business. We bought Connect Booster to optimize their collections and billing. We bought, we have PSAs and that sort of thing. IT Glue for documentation.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're seeing in our business, and one more step back. So our platform, here's our message, here's our value proposition to an MSP. You can get everything in one platform. It's more integrated commercially, like one bill, one invoice, hopefully to reduce some of the vendor fatigue that people deal with. Technically integrated, and every quarter it gets more and more so. So your engineers are more productive because they're working with a platform that's deeply integrated. And we charge less. We try to charge 1/3 less than anything else out there. So if someone's looking at backup, looking at us versus Veeam, we'll be 30% less. Or us and you name it, Logic Monitor or Science Logic or Avik for network management will be 30% less. That's the strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like it's working. It's working because every dollar that an MSP spends on their software kit is a dollar that comes out of their pocket, So if we can charge 30% less for more integrated kit, that MSP is going to choose to use more and more of their stack with Kaseya, because not only is it more integrated, but they spend a lot less money, and they make more profit.
Mm-hmm.
So our data tells us that the average, not a great one and not a bad one, but the average MSP does about 15% profit margin, 15% profit on every dollar of managed services. They spend about 30% of every dollar of managed services on the software kit to deliver the managed service, and the rest is labor.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can reduce that cost by 1/3, then we're almost doubling the profit of an MSP without adding a single customer. We call that profit fuel. We say IT Complete is profit fuel. Grow your profit 30, 40, 50, 60% without adding a single customer, right? That's kind of the story of it. So what I think we're seeing is, Kaseya is getting a larger and larger amount of the stack of our customers. So that helps us grow. We're also, the MSP market's interesting. There's different types of MSPs. We break them into several categories. You have small, medium, large, and super, just to make it really simple. And in the super MSP sector, and even in the larger sector, and I think, by the way, this is open to a 1-person shop or a 2,000-person MSP. One of the biggest trends we see, Robin, is the co-management of IT, or co-managed, is growing exponentially.
Yeah.
There's about 170 to 200,000 IT shops of 1 to 5 people in North America alone that we've identified by name.
How many of those did you say?
About 175,000. I think the numbers, last check, we think there's about 250,000, but by name,
Mm-hmm.
Two River Bank in Monmouth County, Jersey. By name, we got 175,000 of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's of less than 5 internal IT folks. Our bet is by the end of this decade, the vast majority of those will be outsourcing their IT to MSPs like the ones that are on this call.
Right.
IT is just too hard.
Well, we're seeing it now.
Yeah,
Like we're seeing our
but-
members now, they're like one of our spokesperson, David Javahari, just added $64,000. We gave him a campaign and added 64,000 in MRR in 3 months just by
Wow.
going out to co-manage. So
That's awesome.
yeah, I mean,
So-
I would agree. Yeah.
So so the TAM, like the market,
Mhm.
the TAM is total addressable market. The market for MSPs, which is clearly the market for Kaseya, right? But the market for MSPs is growing in two ways. It's growing because small businesses, companies that do not have internal IT, they're spending a larger and larger percentage of their revenue on technology, and they make up the fastest growing part of the global economy. The second is mid-sized businesses like the MBs, the 10-person and less IT shops. We believe the majority of that spend is going to be moved to MSPs, and it's already happening, and it will continue to happen over the decade. We think that doubles the entire market size of what's available for MSPs.
Mhm.
And so we're benefiting from all of that. And I think the better our overall strategy, and I'll tell you, Robin, you know this, you run a business, and most of the MSPs on the call, you run businesses. We have a strategy, we try to execute to that strategy, and we pray to God that we make fewer mistakes than we do things right.
Mhm.
But if you keep banging away at the same strategy, progress will get made and you can do better things for your customers.
Mhm.
We want to make the Kaseya MSPs the most successful. And we define that by the most financially successful, the most profitable, and the ones that have the best opportunity to grow, because we can give kit in our platform at a much lower cost that gives competitive advantage to a Kaseya MSP.
Right.
So that's our strategy. So when you ask why are we doing well? I mean, some of our competitors are public companies like Enable, companies like ConnectWise or Veeam and others. They're private equity owned. For those who don't know this, we all talk to each other all the time. Not necessarily Jason and I. Well, Jason ConnectWise is a great guy, but all the private equity people talk to each other because they're always looking at ways of putting deals together. So we know each other's numbers, and we're growing about 3 times as fast as our closest competitor.
Wow.
Our EBITDA margins are better.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that because we're bragging. Believe me, Robin, we got a lot of challenges and we need a lot of things we have to get better. But I think it shows that the strategy, it makes sense. If we can make our MSPs more money and we can make them grow faster and more profitable, or at least help facilitate it, it works. I think that's why our financial results are pretty good, and we're lucky. Second question you asked was about layoffs in the economy.
Yeah.
So I think what we saw, think about as companies get bigger, there's bureaucracy, right? And the ultimate example of bureaucracy is like the federal government of the United States. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. One of the things that every government does is it's really hard for governments to cut spending, and it's very easy for them to add new spending, because people who vote don't like to vote for people who cut. They like to vote for people who are going to spend more. That's just like that's the rule. I think that when you're running a company like Salesforce, it's easy to get caught up in the euphoria that the world is always going to be as good as it is now, and they just start hiring like wildfire because they don't think it's ever going to go bad. We've been experiencing a period of ridiculously low interest rates for coming up on 14 years or 12 years.
Yeah.
So most of the senior level management of companies like Salesforce and Microsoft and LionGuard and Enable and all the companies that have announced layoffs, they've never run companies in an economic downturn. They've no experience in doing it. So, I'm not criticizing them. I think what happened is people, they jumped the gun and they didn't think it could ever change. When interest rates started moving up, it really changed the world, particularly for private equity backed companies. Sources of funding for companies that are growth but losing money, they've gone away. Talk to a lot of the people that are in companies that are still venture backed. They're trying to get venture debt. It's really hard to get it. So I think that it's a new experience for a lot of, not like Benioff or the guys that run Microsoft. I mean, they've been around, but for the people who make the decisions at companies that big, they're probably 35 to 40. They've
Yeah.
never had to make decisions. They didn't own companies or run companies in 2008, 2009. They don't know what it's like. And I think
Yeah.
it's going to be a different experience. I think it's unfortunate. I think it's going to get a little worse. I think software companies particularly have been irresponsible with how they've spent money. And we see that. I mean, even Microsoft, my favorite company in the world, they just announced they're laying off 10% of their workforce. Microsoft.
Wow. Yeah.
Crazy. No, it's crazy. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So there's a lot of stuff, I want to unpack here because I think this is really good information for the MSPs out there to hear this, because to know what's kind of happening and
yeah.
what they can, anticipate. Because, you talk about lowering costs. So we spent a day at Robert Herjavec's office, the Shark Tank guy. And he said same thing, the private equity firm behind him, which has a whole big portfolio, they bring in experts. He's like, they're all anticipating a downturn and they're getting ready for it. But same thing you're saying, tech's going to remain strong because all the reasons that you listed, which is good. But here's the other thing. We just did a session with Greg Crabtree, Simple Numbers. He looks at the numbers and metrics of the MSPs. And while sales have gone up, profits are still lagging. And I think the problem that a lot of MSPs have, there's really, if you think about it, there's only three ways you're going to increase your profitability. You have to lower your costs. And for an MSP, the costs are like you're saying, the kit, the tools that they use, and labor, right? So you can't really reduce labor because labor is at a shortage. You go to your engineers and say, I'm going to cut your salary. They're all leaving because they can get, so you don't really there's no way you can really cut labor costs unless you hire real junior people and train them up. But that's a tough one. So you have to lower the tool cost or the labor. The second way, of course, is raise your prices, which I keep telling them to do, but a lot of them don't want to raise prices. I mean, that's not an easy thing to go out to a customer and say, we got to price by 20%, because there's breakage, right? And so that's often not a favorable one. And the third way is you just got to be more efficient. You got to find ways to get more done with the labor you have, right? So, kind of ties in, I'm just kind of underlining what you're saying is, as MSPs are going into this year, because this was what Greg Crabtree said. He's like, guys, you got to get profitable now. He keeps like saying, if you don't do this, if you don't raise your prices, figure out how to lower your costs, and hit it and be more efficient with who you've got, you're going to run into some trouble. So,
to that point, Robin, I'm like you, I one of the cool parts about my job is I get to talk to hundreds of MSPs. And I always have to make sure I say this. I've never run an MSP. So it's easy for me to give advice. I've never done it. So I want to be really clear with the audience. Like, I've never run an MSP, but I've talked to a lot. And, you see patterns, right? You see patterns of folks that are more successful or not successful. And it's not, I've seen super successful MSPs that are 3-person shops and super unsuccessful ones that are 1,000 people and vice versa.
Yeah.
The things that are consistent, Robin, I think it's just basic business. And one of them is so at Kaseya, we can lower prices because we're getting a larger overall spend from our customer because of it. So it has a similar effect of raising prices because we're getting more revenue per customer. So if you think about a service business like an MSP, the more revenue you get per customer is the key. So raising prices doesn't have to be, we're doing the same thing and we're going to charge 30% more. It could be, we're doing a PCI, we're doing all these other things as well, because the cost of acquiring the customer and managing the relationship is the largest cost. So, getting more revenue per customer doesn't always mean raising prices. It could mean increasing value.
Right.
So that's something that we've seen a lot. Another thing that we've seen, and I'm a software vendor, and this leans into our strategy. So clearly this is a little bit of like a Kaseya commercial, but I believe it. I mean, I'm passionate about our company and what we do. I think we add a lot of value to our customers. MSPs that run their business as a business and they don't run it as an engineer tend to be much more successful. And it's very similar to a lawyer. If a lawyer is the best lawyer in the town or in the county or in the state, but they're terrible at marketing themselves, and they're terrible at charging the right hourly rate and all the things that lawyers do. They might go 4 out of 4 and win every case they go after, but they end up starving because they need 20 cases to pay their bills.
Well, they're like, their business is like, I use the comparison, their business is like a bicycle as compared to like a jet airplane, right? You know,
Yeah.
a bicycle's easy, but it's just you, and it's manual labor to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
It takes you forever, right?
And
Yeah.
that lawyer loves the law, and they really want to stick their head in the law and be all about the law. And what that lawyer should do is hire someone to run his law practice for him, so he or she can be the best lawyer. Because for a law practice to be successful, of course, you need to have kick-ass lawyers, but you have to be a business. And MSP is the same thing. I see so many owners of MSPs that spend more time evaluating tools or looking at technology and what they like to play with instead of focusing on the business. So, you know, if that's what the person wants to do as the owner, that's great. Just empower someone else to run the business. You know, and we see it all the time. And it's, anyway, those are just some things that Rob, and I don't know if that makes sense, that we see. And
Yeah, no. And I got a couple more. I know you got time limited, and we got some questions like that are stacking up. And so let me just ask you this, because I want to understand, you know, we look at these, what I coined the term super MSPs, and people are now stealing from me, but you know, but these super MSPs, these private equity backed, rolling up these, you know, they're getting bigger and bigger, savvier, they're not dumb. If the small MSPs that are out there, do they have a snowball's chance in hell of surviving or even thriving over the next couple of years?
So my direct answer is 100% yes.
Okay.
I think they have a better chance. Here's why. They have a better chance if they run their business like a business. So if you think about most MSPs that I've been lucky enough to talk to and stuff, is their customers tend to be local customers in the community, right? And the personal relationship of that MSP to that customer is incredibly important. The data backs it up. We see when an MSP gets acquired, it's around month 18, the churn of that MSP goes through the roof relative to the normalized state of it, like 4 standard deviations bigger. And that makes sense, because usually 18 months is the average time for an earnout, and people split, and that's what happens. Okay. So if I'm doing an MSP roll-up, big private equity backed or family money backed or whatever roll-up, I get some advantages. I'll pay a little bit less for software kit because I'm buying in volume. What no one's really figured out yet that I'm aware of is how to centrally, in a low-cost center, and I don't mean an offshore center, I mean maybe Fargo, North Dakota, or, you know, up in Maine somewhere, a low-cost domestic center, centralized service delivery. So you're not paying like New York or California rates for a New York or California technician, but your customers are paying you New York rates because you're a New York or California-based MSP. Right. People tried that and failed. So the big MSPs, what they're doing, in order for them to justify their cost of capital, they have to reduce costs somewhere. They get a little bit because they're going to pay less for software. You know, 500-person MSP will pay less than a 5-person MSP. So that's just volume. But they have to fund the deals they're doing. And what happens is they try to do centralized service delivery in low-cost centers. Most of them fail. So they get about a 2x in terms of the churn than the local MSP has. If I'm a local MSP and I'm not interested in buying 75 or 100 MSPs and going big, I am going to pick off customers from my competition who sells out, and it'll be pretty easy to do.
So as soon as somebody, I just want to make sure. So like if you're an MSP and you're small, as soon as one of your competitors gets acquired, start looking at going after their customers, because it's almost a matter of time where they're going to say
the service quality is going to diminish. Now, that's not every time. MSPs that are doing like aggregation that I've seen be very successful are the ones that keep it in one geography. So, you know, let's say in South Florida, you know, I buy 9 MSPs and we roll it up. That can work because you're still local. But I've seen people struggle that try to buy 3 in New York, 6 in Boston, 2 in California, 2 in Texas. because they try to then centralize service delivery. It's hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
Some are doing it, but overall it's hard to do. And I do believe that the MSP business model is one of local relationships really matter to local businesses.
It does, yeah. Now, the marketing we see supports it, as well. So, I mean, just something as simple as having a local phone number on your website will increase
Absolutely.
conversions.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of crazy, but
Like when
all
you,
right. What was that?
I was going to say, a lot of times we experience it in our business as well. I'm sure some of your customers or your MSPs as call will say it. How much does it suck when Datto or Kaseya, when they change their account manager? It sucks. It makes it hard because now you have to explain your business to someone new and you got to know the person you were with. That's a problem that we deal with because we're growing so fast and we promote so many people. That happens.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. And we spend a lot of time and effort trying to do it right. Imagine it's even worse if you're an MSP and you get bought and now there's someone new 6 months later who's not the owner of the company, but an employee in a different state that's managing the account. It's different.
Right.
And I think that that'd be my advice there.
Okay, cool. A couple other quick things. What you mentioned, profit fuel. So what is profit fuel?
Yeah. Profit fuel is it's a really trendy marketing term that we came up with, trying to do our best to be a marketing company. It's pretty tough when you're like a software nerd and you try to do marketing, but profit fuel is just is the term that we use. And it's a methodology that we have for our MSP partners, customers, to maximize their profit by adopting the entire IT complete stack. And what we say is the more of the IT complete stack that an MSP is adopted, the more fuel to their profit they get because they're going to spend less. So we have a process. It's about a 4-week process. Takes about 4 hours, maybe 6 hours of the MSP's time. And what we do is we do an audit. I hate the word audit because it sounds so arrogant. I always haven't figured out a better word for it, but we do like an audit or an assessment. And we work with the MSP to look at what they're doing for every type of managed service and what does their software stack look like? How are they delivering security? What products are they using? How are they delivering their gold, silver, bronze packages and whatever? And then we map that to how that would be done with IT Complete. And then we show them how much they're spending right now and how much that they would spend with IT Complete. And the numbers are staggering. And that delta is what we call profit fuel. And then, of course, we walk through, a lot of times it might take 9 months to deploy everything. And, it's not always a one-to-one switch. It changed. It's a little bit of complexity to it. But we've spent about 9 months building a really good methodology to deliver on it. It works. We did one. They've spoken publicly about it, but there's a large MSP. I'm not going to say their name because I don't know if they'd want me to say it on a group this big, but they've spoken publicly about it before. They probably do 65, maybe 75 million of revenue. And they went through this and they're saving about $3.2 million a year.
Wow.
So you figure that MSP is doing $12 million a year of profit.
Yeah, it's significant. Yeah.
It's huge. So another MSP is like an 8-person shop and, we saved them about 75 grand a year. They were doing like 300,000 a year profit. Now we're doing 370. So it's a pretty cool process. It's something I would encourage everyone to take a look at. It doesn't cost anything to do it.
So they reach out to their account executive if they want to
talk to your account manager. Say you want to do a profit fuel analysis. So even the people who maybe decide they don't want to work with Kaseya and do anything, you get a lot of good information because you find out, it forces you to really look at what you're spending money on. And if you're a company as big as Kaseya or as small as a 1-person startup, we're all spending money that we're not aware of one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I dare I say, like, do it. And then, I mean, even if you don't go with Kaseya, you could always use it to beat up your current vendors and they'll probably say no, but it'll just be, it's just still, I probably shouldn't have said that because you want them to buy. But I love
it when you do that.
Okay. All right. So I know you got a hard stop. So I want to be really 3 quick rapid fire. Any new acquisitions on the horizon? Because I know that's you mentioned it, and I've heard some rumors that there might be another big acquisition.
Yes.
So yeah, so there are, can you talk about them or is it still?
So we've already acquired one, be announcing it in about 4 or 6 weeks.
Okay.
Again, we want to make sure that we've integrated the billing systems and the support systems. You know, some people give me some flack for this, but we buy companies, don't announce it right away, because there's nothing worse than saying, hey, we bought this company and nothing's integrated for 3 more months, so you got to wait. Like, that's really kind of a crappy thing to do. But we bought someone. We should have, I'm hopeful that in the next, that in the first half of the year, we'll announce 1, maybe 2. This year, we'll probably announce 4 acquisitions.
Okay.
I'm not gonna tell you who they are, because obviously I'm not gonna, but I think, they're pretty substantial. One should be cool. It's not ConnectWise.
I was going to just ask you, I
I get
I
asked
heard
that
a
a lot.
rumor,
I mean, look, everybody knows ConnectWise is for sale right now. They're running a processor. We're about to kick it off. But we're not going to bid on ConnectWise. We're not going to buy him. Great company. I think their CEO, Jason's a great guy. I've known him for over 20 years. He was my little brother's boss at a company way, way back in the channel. And he treated my brother really well. And Jason's a great guy, but we're not looking to buy ConnectWise right now.
okay. All right. Second of all, the dog behind you, we're getting a couple people asking what's up with the dog, with Cooper.
Yeah, so that's my dog. His name's Cooper. He's actually sitting right here next to me. Cooper is like all of us, right? We love our dogs and our kids like there's no tomorrow. Sometimes we probably like our dogs more than our kids. So his name's Cooper. He's a half beagle, half Pekingese, and he's pretty kick-ass. He had a spinal injury about 6 years ago, so we had to learn how to like spinal walk again, and we took him to water therapy every day and a bunch of surgeries. So he got back to living a pretty good life. So he does a lot of work with so Cooper Cares. So I have a foundation that I created my family, the Cooper Voccola Family Foundation. So we we do a lot of stuff with disabled veterans and a lot of animal shelters and animal causes and things like that, try to bring the two together. So that's Cooper. And about 9 months ago, we released into our product the Cooper AI engine. So inside of IT Complete, we have an AI engine, which is named after Cooper. And what he does is the engine watches how our customers are utilizing our products. One of the challenges MSPs face, they're so busy. They have just so much crap they got to do all day long. They can't always get the most out of every product they're using. So what our engine does is, if you're using one of our products and you're not using a feature that can add a ton of value or provide automation, you'll get an alert in the product that'll say, hello, Mr. or Mrs. MSP, you should be doing this. That's why we call it Cooper. And the cool part is, like, you get a little pound inside the product, like Cooper's there and he'll like pound you if you do something good. And I just wanted to make sure I could memorialize my dog and the causes that he fights for, which are like worthwhile. And you can check out the causes he fights for. But that's what it does in the product, and it's super cool, and very proud to have it named after my dog.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, someone was just saying, I was wondering why it was named Cooper, so people didn't realize that. So I know we got a ton of questions, guys. Fred has a hard stop, and I'm already, like, it was supposed to be about 45 minutes and we're already 5 minutes over that. And I'm sure you're getting a message or whatever.
I can keep going here. So I got 10 more minutes, so we can fire away if you want.
Okay. So, okay, let me, so one of the questions, I'll just start taking some of the questions. There's a bunch, because Jeff is messaging me. I've got 2 screens up here. Is IT Complete a service or a product?
It's a
so
product.
They don't see it it is a product, because they don't.
IT Complete's our platform.
Okay.
So whenever someone uses any Kaseya product, whether it's Datto EDR or IT Glue or Kaseya RMM or Datto RMM, whatever, you are using one module of the platform. Think about it like if you're using Excel, you're actually using Microsoft Office. You're just using the spreadsheet component of it. And there's 32 modules of the platform, and they're all integrated. They all work together. But it is, IT Complete is our platform.
Okay. Yes, I wanted to know that. The other questions, and I'll kind of group these together. So, Rob Ray is not there. And I know that the, Ryan Weeks So, can you talk a little bit about where, why they left? I know you probably can't. I mean, it's with employee confidential. I don't know, whatever you feel comfortable with, but people are just kind of wondering what happened. And
yeah, so Ryan is still here at the company.
okay.
Rob is no longer here. Rob's a great guy. Liked Rob a lot. Wanted Rob to stay. Rob felt his journey at Datto was just over, and he wanted new challenges. Listen, I'm not speaking for Rob Ray. It's not like a legal thing or anything. I don't think it's cool to give my opinion as to why someone chose their career another way. All I can say is I respect the hell out of Rob. I wanted Rob to stay. We wanted Rob to stay.
Yeah.
He just felt like what he articulated to me was he felt that his journey was over at Datto. I mean, Rob was in my opinion, one of the key guys that built Datto. I mean, I would argue Rob was probably as instrumental as everyone, including Austin, at building Datto. And I think, Datto went through some tough times. I mean, when they struggled as a public company, their financials are there. And I also think that there was a time, Datto did some layoffs around the whole COVID thing, and Rob's team got decimated. They really laid off back in it was 2020, 21. Rob's team experienced a lot of budget cuts and layoffs, and we've more than brought that back. I think, Rob has stated publicly he was leaving even before the acquisition. I wish Rob would have stayed. Rob he behaved like a gentleman. He finished off DattoCon. He behaved like a complete gentleman, and he's going to move on, and wherever he goes, I'm sure he's going to keep kicking ass like he did at Datto.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him. It's kind of interesting because the last I saw him was at one of our events or something, and I haven't talked to him. So but it's just kind of people are just wondering, So, and it's tough, guys. I mean, we've all lost key employees, and it just happens. I mean, especially we had a key person running one of our masterminds, and he just decided he wanted to move on to do something else. It's people always rumors all fly and all that, but sometimes it's just
Rob was at Datto for a long time.
Yeah.
And there's always new blood brings new energy. Dan Tomaszewski's just crushing this. The guy's he's like a machine. The guy's like an 80-hour work week guy. He's got so much passion for it. We've hired so many people into that group. I'm very proud of the work that they've done. So, it's like you said, Robin, it is what it is, but a lot of respect for Rob and what he built here at Datto.
Yeah. Okay. Another question. You've transformed Kaseya to where it is from now, where it was in 2015. How do you see Kaseya Datto merger transforming the industry in the next 5 years? I think he kind of answered that. I'm going back to some questions.
So transferring the industry, I think, I think we have the best platform for the MSPs. I think that we've made so many mistakes. I can't emphasize that, but I do think that we got the right messaging. We're more integration, less vendor fatigue, less vendor management, and much lower prices. I think that that's what MSPs need, because the customers of MSPs are demanding a lot more, and they're willing to pay a little bit more. So they may want 20% more things, but they're only willing to pay 5% more for them. So I think we're going to help with that. I think Kaseya by the end of the decade is one of the 5 most valuable software companies in the world.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. All right. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, because I know you've got a hard stop. There are other questions. I'll feed them to your teams, because some of them are some hey, about support of different products and whatnot. So, I mean, nothing negative, just some suggestions and stuff like that, and questions that I'll make sure your team gets, so we can end on time for you. So yeah, I mean, any last kind of parting words for the people here that are watching?
No, just thank you guys and gals. It's I love my job. I only have my job because of people like you guys. You pay our bills. We're lucky enough to have you guys use our products, pay us money for them. Hopefully we deliver a hell of a lot more value than you pay for them. Super grateful for it. And, one thing I will say, I love talking to customers one-on-one. I think it's weird for me to think that Kaseya is a big company. My background, I started a bunch of companies, took them public, sold them. And, I guess Kaseya is now a big company, 5,000 people, whatever the hell we are. Yeah. And whenever I fly, I get so frustrated because the airline screws up. And sometimes it's hard. Takes me effort to be like, I don't think they're doing it on purpose. They're just screwing up. We make a lot of mistakes. I promise everybody on this call, no one's trying to screw with any MSPs or make life hard. We really not. We have 5,000 people. Every company has like culture, and some people have like on the coffee mug what their values are. Our number one value is customer centricity. What that means is every single employee in our company, whether it's an accountant, a salesperson, a developer, or a product person, it doesn't mean that they always do what the customer wants. What it means is in everything that they do, everything they build, everything that they design, they try to think of how it's going to impact the customer, and what is, if I'm designing the bill, is the customer going to like it or hate it? Not, I'm designing the bill because it's the way I want the bill to look. And that's what we strive for. Clearly, we don't always do it. It's the bane of my existence. But that's what we strive for. So I would encourage everyone on the call, when you think about Kaseya, or anyone else for that matter, we try to make it so everyone on this call can have a human contact point into our customer, so you can know why we're doing what we do, not just what we're doing. Because if you know the why, the what may be totally screwed up, but the why is a good intention, and then you can give your feedback to make it better. That's what we strive for, and really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I do remember, like, again, going back to when you first took over Kaseya, and I do remember people wearing you out when you came to Producers Club. I felt a little bad about it. I was like, hey, are you okay? And it was just you and I talking. And so you did, I'm not saying this because it was just you and I talking. You weren't trying to say anything like bullshit or whatever, and you said, a lot of people are really upset. And what that means is that they care about the product and the company. And I thought that really, actually, it's 2015 and now I remember that. It really stuck with me because, a customer who's really upset or angry, some of them, let's be honest, some of them are just being jerks. Some people are like, well, my little itty bitty part of the world, I want this thing. And like, I deal with that too. Everybody on this call deals with that. You have customers who want a certain thing and it's just like, I can't do it. Right. But if something's really genuinely could be better and someone's upset about it, it's because they're telling you it's because they care about the company and they care about the product and so I do know that about you. And I do know that as I grow a bigger company and as everybody on this call grows a bigger company, you hire more people and there's more systems and more complexity, and it gets harder and harder and harder to make sure all the way down in the weeds, everything is being done exactly right. And, but I do believe that you're very sincere about your wish to support MSPs and build products. Who wouldn't? If you're going to be successful in business, that's how you win customers.
You gotta give a shit. You gotta care.
Yeah. Well, customers have choices, and so, you piss everybody off, you'll lose your customers, so I do think that. So again, I appreciate you taking time today, guys. We'll post the recording up. We'll get there's 36 chats or something like that. We'll get that to your team and then you can, answer those questions. So,
well, Robin, everybody, thanks. Appreciate the time as always. And see you guys soon.
All right. Thanks everybody.
Thanks,
all right. Bye now.
Bye-bye.